I'm going to tell you a story, and it's going to involve a video game, and how that one video game can bring people together and complicate their lives. Oh, and maybe a hint of recursion. Welcome to All Your Lives Belong to Us, an Aurora Wasteland story by VaughnAshby. Episode 6, Faraday. A. The warm glow of the neon light was a pleasant reminder of Faraday's post-university years as he sat himself down on a stool at the sushi bar. He traveled Asia after university, mostly taking in lectures of different professors. Then he'd confront them about his ideas and take them out for dinner after he'd won them over despite his lack of social cues and proper polite conversation. He'd grown up alone. His mom had died when he was younger, and his father had to be able to work to feed the two of them. After so much time alone, his interpersonal skills were substantially below his intelligence. He could understand anything related to math and physics, but he had difficulty talking about it without sounding like an arrogant ass. But that was years, no, decades ago. Now he was an old man, with only somewhat poor interpersonal skills. The sushi chef motioned that he'd be with Faraday in a second, when a woman sat down next to him and smiled. He wasn't used to a woman smiling at him. He tried to smile back, but only managed an awkward laugh. He tucked his long hair behind his ear and returned to looking at the menu. It had been a long day, one he wasn't meant to spend alone. Faraday didn't believe when people say life is fragile, or whatever happens was meant to happen. That was passive, illogical shit. Life was complicated in a way that disallowed it to be fragile. And nothing happened because it happened. It happened because you allowed it. He was alone here because he allowed it to happen, and he hated himself for allowing it. Tough day? The woman asked, obviously picking up his aura. Yeah, you could say that, Faraday replied, as he tried to smile again, but again he failed and only managed a half-fading smile. I lost someone I admired today, and I knew it was going to happen, and I just let it. What does that say about me? The woman smiled at him again, then motioned to the bartender for 2 drinks. I think you need a drink. I might need a couple. The bartender brought over 2 drinks that Faraday had never seen before. He knew they were cocktails of some kind, but he'd never really been into them before, mostly because he didn't drink much. And when he did, he found all the ingredients overwhelming. He knew physics, not chemistry, so he stuck to the basics. And the 2 sitting in front of him were not basic. The woman next to him picked up one of the drinks and smiled at him. Faraday followed her lead. To your friend, she said, as she raised a glass in a toast. We weren't really friends, Faraday replied, as they both took a drink. I don't really have any of those. I've never really been good at keeping them. The only friend I did have I lost decades ago. I lost him and his wife, and I've been spending my life trying to get them back. Bring them back? Like from death? The woman asked. No, it's more complicated than death. I didn't know there was such a thing. Well, Faraday took a sip of his cocktail. It wasn't bad. He might have to try this one again. Though he knew that wasn't going to happen. He'd go back to what he always had. Have you ever lost someone? Yeah, the woman said, then finished her drink in one long, impressive swig. Yeah, my parents, and a boyfriend once. I'm sorry. It's okay. I'm sorry about your... What was that person you lost? You mean they died, right? I don't mean to be crass, but I just want to be sure we're on the same page. I need to know if I'm giving you a sorry your buddy died blowjob, or a what do you mean you misplaced them handjob? Faraday laughed and spit out his drink. Listen, I appreciate the offer, but he motioned to her, then to him. You're way too young for me. I could be your grandpa, so thank you, but... The woman laughed. Oh, I was just joking, trying to make you feel better. I do have a current boyfriend, but I do want to know. Did he or she die, or did you misplace them? Because you seem like the type of guy that could misplace them. The woman I admire died. The friend from decades ago, him I lost. I feel like I need details about both of them, the woman said as she signaled the bartender again for more drinks. But first, we need drinks. Okay, Faraday said as he finished his first drink in anticipation of the next, but paused as the last few drops touched his lip. Across from him was a man he hadn't seen in a very long time. Faraday awkwardly laughed into his glass. The man waved at him. Faraday waved back. 2 more? The bartender said as he placed the drinks down in front of Faraday and the woman. We'll probably need a few more in a couple minutes, the woman said. Oh, and some tempura, please. The bartender politely smiled at her, then hurried off. Faraday stared at the place the man had been sitting. You okay? The woman asked. Yeah, it's just... Faraday placed the empty glass down and ran his fingers around the rim. I work in physics. Well, I used to. I don't anymore, but he glanced back to where the man had been sitting. He still wasn't there. I helped my friend, the one I lost. I helped him and his wife, at least I hope I did. I sent them to another reality, and in doing so, I've encountered some side effects. Mainly drift from the other side, like seeing shadows of what's over there, but over here. Does that make sense? The woman laughed. Not at all. Man, those drinks hit you fast. Maybe you should... Okay, listen, Faraday said, as he grabbed the soy sauce, undid the lid, and carefully dripped a line across the counter. It was no more than the length of a hand. This is us. Us, like you and me? We just met. I know I made the handjob joke, but no, not you and me. Well, not just you and me. This is everyone in our reality, dimension, whatever you want to call it. And this line is time. He dripped another line next to it, but was careful to have them never touch. The soy sauce lines paralleled each other. This line is where I sent my friend, where I lost him. His wife was sick, and I sent the two of them over there, because time doesn't seem to move forward there. Or so I thought. Now I'm not sure. You sent your friend and his wife to another dimension, so that she wouldn't die. So they could be together forever? Yeah, basically, Faraday said as he took a sip of his drink. It tasted different, but he liked it just as much as the first two. Or maybe he was feeling the effects. How romantic. Maybe the hand job is back on the table. Anyway, I thought it was all done and over, but it wasn't, because I started experiencing things recently that I can't explain. Is that the drift you mentioned? Yeah, I can see pieces from the other side, but... Faraday trailed off as he noticed a man sitting next to the woman. He looked rather dapper in his suit. Normally, Faraday wouldn't have noticed him at all, except the man had no skin, he was only bones, and had two giant deer antlers sticking out of his head. The man waved at Faraday. Faraday waved back, causing the woman to give him a strange look. Are you seeing one of those pieces right now? The woman asked. Yeah, Faraday replied, unsure if he should be telling her the truth. There is a man with antlers sitting next to you. Really? Is he cute? Faraday shrugged. He's not really my type. The woman laughed and waved her hand over the seat next to her, where it was likely she assumed the antler man was sitting. Before her hand could pass through him, the antler man was gone. Did I touch his naughty parts? The woman laughed, sending cocktail liquid out her nose, which led to more laughter. Sorry, she giggled. I didn't mean to poke fun. It's just the whole thing seems unbelievable. You aren't wrong. It's unbelievable, but also real. So, this drift, the woman said, as she cleaned herself up with a napkin. Can you stop it? Faraday stared at her. He didn't really consider then. He'd been too occupied with saving his friend. Then, when you pile on losing the acquaintance today, it was, well, all-encompassing. I made a machine. Well, two actually. The first a long time ago, for my friend Bishop and his wife. The other was for my friend Nick. Nick has issues. Remember the lines? Faraday motioned to the soy sauce on the table. The woman nodded as she took a sip of her drink. I was trying to figure out a way to send someone to the other line. Nick was one of my test subjects. He was perfectly suited for it. I tried time after time to send him over, but it never happened. The best I can tell is there's some sort of filter in between the two lines of soy sauce, and Nick kept getting bounced back. Only the filter scraped everything clean out of Nick's memory. Everything related to the other side was deleted. Is that possible, to delete someone's memory like that? I wouldn't have thought so, but like I said, I'm a physics guy. So what does that mean he doesn't remember? Because I forget things all the time. But I don't think I'm bouncing off some filter or whatever it is. Faraday laughed. I'm not proud of this. But Nick constantly forgot about already doing the test. So he thought each time was the first. Like I said, I liked Nick. In fact, if I hadn't liked him so much, I probably would have stopped earlier. But he grew on me, and I wanted to help him. Help him? I thought he was your test subject? He was, but his wife, Lemon, well, she's the one who died recently. She's the reason I'm so many cocktails deep and talking to you about this. She had to bring him home every day after I completed the test. Every day I had to see the disappointed look on her face. It was painful. Wait, did you say Lemon? Like the game developer Lemon? The woman asked. Yeah, that's her, Faraday said as he eyed the now empty glass and wondered if he'd already had too much. Do you know her? Yes, the woman blurted out. I just applied for a job at her company.
257. 257.
B. Again, there was a click on the trigger, and again Nick's body went limp. He wasn't sure how many times it had been, but the copies of his body on the bed were starting to pile up. Plus, the ones on the bottom were already melting away to black goo liquid stuff. Nick had never seen what happened to his bodies when he died and reappeared in the hotel room. But now he did. It was really gross. The length of time it was taking him to reappear was getting longer and longer as well. At first, he just assumed it was just him using up a lot of resources, or whatever Remy had given him shit for. But now, as Gabby continually asked him if he remembered her, he was starting to think that maybe it was her. Nick reappeared in the bed. The drool from his face ran down to the dead bodies below him. The drool connection was enough to make him want to throw up. He'd never drooled on a dead body before, and he hoped it would be the last. "How about now?" Gabby asked, as she fiddled with her watch. It didn't look big enough to be a smartwatch, but Nick had been so distracted by her dress until now, and the dying, that it was hard to focus on other things. Nick mumbled something that wasn't really words, and threw his hands up in the hopes of getting her to stop. It had no effect. She sighed and pulled the trigger again. The gap felt substantially longer this time. Enough so that Nick could feel the nothingness around him. Wherever he was, it felt like he was nowhere. But he had to be somewhere, right? There wasn't really a place where you could exist and it couldn't. Then again, what if he wasn't really existing right now? What if this wasn't real? What if he was, but he was thinking, so he existed? You have to exist to think, right? All these questions were making his head hurt, except, he didn't currently have one. Nick again woke up in the bed and swatted the drool off his face. He tried to roll off the bed, but the bodies below him made it difficult to move. His foot slipped on the black tar that used to be him and ended up punching a hole through the chest of another him. It was really fucking disgusting. "I'm gonna throw up." "Well?" Gabby asked, her gun already aimed at him. Nick rubbed some liquid that used to be part of his body off of his face. "Kill me already. I think some of my old body got in my mouth." "Do you remember me?" "No. How can I remember you? You kill me and nothing happens." "Well, except this time, when it was all black for a while and..." Gabby pulled the trigger again. Again, Nick was in nothing but blackness. This sucked. How long was he going to have to do this? There was nothing to remember here. Nick felt a jolt. His world moved like it was on a truck or car. Another jolt. Then, there was a terrifying feeling of being pulled somewhere, like thousands of fingers yanking him along. Then, there was a dropping sensation, and he landed hard. The air and pee rushed out of his body. Nick opened his eyes. A man he had no memory of was staring at him. No, that's not right. He was smiling at him. The man patted him on the shoulder. "How do you feel?" the man asked. "Confused, I guess," Nick replied, as he looked around the room. Was he in a fast food restaurant? A giant mushroomed character holding a burger and fountain drink smiled down at him. It was rather startling. It was the strangest and most penis-looking statue he'd ever seen. "And you are?" Nick asked right before he was sent back to the hotel room with Gabby. "Anything?" Gabby asked. "A penis statue? There was a penis statue. How does that relate to you remembering me?" "I have no idea. You're driving the bus here. Can I get a water? This is really drying my mouth out," and Nick's head exploded again. He was back in the blackness. Again, it felt like nothing. Then he was dropping back in the chair at the fast food restaurant. The penis statue was still just across the room, staring into his soul. "How do you feel?" the man asked again. Only the man's tone was different. There was a hint of disappointment. His hair also looked longer. "Confused?" Nick replied, confused if he should admit his confusion. "Well, that's par for the course, or whatever the golf saying is. I don't really get it. Not sure why I use that saying, but still, it's understandable. Your confusion, that is. Your ride is out front. Don't leave her waiting." "Her?" Nick asked. "Wow, today must have been a truly colossal fuck-up on my end." The man extended his hand to help Nick up. "Your wife, Lemon. She always parks out front, completely ignoring the no parking sign." "Lemon? She's here? Where else would she be?" Nick jumped from his feet and rushed to the door. He tugged at the knob. It didn't budge. "Sorry, I keep forgetting to buzz you out," the man said as he grabbed his phone and tapped around on the screen. Eventually, the door buzzed and Nick opened it. There was a small waiting room on the other side. Two women were sitting there, both reading magazines. Nick glanced at them, but continued his journey to a reunion with Lemon, except he stopped with his hand on the exterior door and glanced back. There, sitting in one of the chairs, was Gabby. Nick opened his mouth to speak, but wound up with a mouthful of drool again. He was back in the hotel room. "Wait," he yelled. The pile was getting so high that he could hear audible crunches from below him as his body weight added to the already dense pile of Nick's. "You were there. The fast food lab place. There was a guy, I don't know his name, but..." "Faraday," Gabby said. "His name was Faraday." "You were there." So was someone else, and do you remember why you were there? No, but I also saw Gabby pulled the trigger again, and Nick fell into the chair, which seemed to have been upgraded. Actually, most of the lab had been upgraded. Luckily, the penis statue was still there. I need to go, Nick said as he jumped to his feet and rushed towards the door. Wait, Faraday said as he fumbled for his phone. Are you okay? Did you make it? What's the rush? Lemon, was all Nick could blurt out. He stared back at Faraday, hoping he would unlock the door. Please. Okay, you need to come back here and talk to me about this. If this thing works, well, it's kind of a big deal, Faraday said as he buzzed the door for Nick. The smaller waiting room was empty this time. Not that it mattered, he wouldn't have stopped for anything or anyone. Lemon was right on the other side of the door. He needed to see her, he needed to talk to her, touch her, he just needed her. The exterior door flew open as Nick ran out. He expected Lemon to come running for him, but there was nothing. The sun was so bright, he could hardly see a few feet in front of him. As Nick stepped forward, there was a long horn. He shielded his eyes and could see a bus only a few feet away. It looked like the bus he and Lemon had taken on their tour of Brightness Falls. Actually, the closer he got, the more he was sure it was the same bus. He ran his fingers along the side and glanced up at the bus's destination that was displayed above the front window. Brightness Falls National Park. Lemon, he yelled, hoping she would come running. Only blackness again. Then he was back in the chair. He skipped going back to the hotel entirely, except the chair was different. He wasn't in Faraday's fast food lab or the hotel room. It didn't take long for him to figure out where exactly he was. He was home.
257. 257.
Hey, why did you build your lab in an old fast food restaurant? Lemon asked, as she and Faraday stared through the one-way glass out to the fast food restaurant lab. I mean, I can still smell fries and the sadness. The retail price was insanely cheap. Something about someone burning their butt on a French fry bucket. I stopped listening once I saw the price. Now, I kinda want to know about this fry butt thing. I'm sure it's on the internet somewhere. Thanks, genius. So, about my sexy man out there, Lemon said, motioning to Nick. How's he doing? How's the whole process going? Nick, well, he's doing great if you consider that he has ever-growing gaps in his memory. Yeah, it blows, but the sex after is amazing. Lemon laughed. I'm kidding. Well, mostly. There was this one time you know what? Never mind. Sorry, I don't have anyone to talk to about this, so I'm kind of dumping it all on you. I understand. The process isn't moving forward as fast as I'd like. I seem to have hit a wall, and I think it's taking a toll on the test subjects, Faraday said as he motioned to the two women in the room with Nick. Gabby seems to be making progress, but I worry her memory may be weakening in areas unrelated to the destination, and Lemon's cell phone buzzed, interrupting them. Sorry, Lemon mouthed. Work can be a bit of an egg sometimes. How is work? Lemon sighed. It's almost ready to launch. The testing is going well. I'm pushing hard to finish it because of the cancer and all. Is the cancer affecting your work? I don't really know, but it's all factored in, and all part of the test, Lemon said as she stared at Nick. It's hard, you know. I was joking before, it's just hard. Yeah. Faraday placed a hand on Lemon's shoulder. We're doing this for a reason. You aren't a monster. I'm not a monster. We're doing this because we have to. I know, but that doesn't make it any easier. You're right. Life can be a dick sometimes. You're an amazing woman, and the work you're doing for him, it's world-altering. Don't forget that. Thanks, Lemon said as she grabbed Faraday for a hug. Sorry, I don't normally do that, she said as she released him. Any luck finding your friend? No, Faraday sighed. I'm starting to think that's not going to happen. Finding him? Yeah. I'm starting to think he doesn't want to be found. The two of them stood silently at the thought and watched Nick with the two women in the fast food restaurant. They all seemed to be joking about the statue that looked more and more like a penis as Faraday stared at it. He laughed and glanced over at Lemon. She was laughing too. It really did look like a penis. As he turned his attention back to Nick, he noticed something. Something that wasn't there before. A door frame stood in the middle of the restaurant. He leaned into the glass to try to see who brought it in, but he saw no one. Why was there a door frame in the middle of his lab? As his brain processed the thought, he paused. There was a low rumble in the distance. It sounded like horses, a lot of them. Why would there be horses stampeding in the middle of the city, near this fast food lab? Then the building shook, and Faraday covered his head. It sounded like horses were on the roof. You okay? Lemon asked. Faraday said nothing and pointed up. Lemon looked up quickly, but returned her concern to him. What? The horses crossed the roof and leapt off the side. Only as Faraday watched through the one-way mirror and out the front window of the restaurant, he saw they weren't horses. They were spiders. Big, massive, gross spiders. Then, as fast as the door appeared, the spiders along with the frame were gone. You okay? Lemon repeated. Did you see that? Faraday asked as he rushed over to find a notebook to write down what he'd just witnessed. See what? Lemon replied.
257.
B. The house looked almost exactly the same. It looked like it had been deserted. Nick brushed himself off and got up. There was a considerable amount of dust on everything. He took the room in and tried to pick it apart. This wasn't how he left the house. It was clean, even with the dust. No, this was how the house looked when Lemon was alive. There were hints of her everywhere, and the way the TV remote was placed, the toilet seat being down and there being toilet paper to use. It was like the house was taken from his past. Hello? A familiar voice called out from the house. This house is off limits by order of Lemon. Get the fuck out. It was Lime, she was alive. And based on the arguing, so was Baker. Okay, fine, there is no Lemon order. But still, get the fuck out, Lime yelled. Nick made his way to the front door, unlocked it, and cracked it open. Do you want to come in for a beer, possibly some dust? Nick? Lime said as she ran up the steps to meet him. How did you get out? Nice to see you still have a head. Well, it's new, Baker added as he joined Lime on the front step. How did you get out? Because this feels very much like a trap. A trap? Nick asked. For me? For us. For us all. Who let you out? A woman named Gabby? Fuck, Lime said as she grabbed Baker and Nick's hand and pulled them into the house, slamming the door behind them. Did she have that sexy dress on? What? Nick muttered. Come on, Nick, keep up. The dress, did it billow around her, making her look like the sexy little superhero she is? I mean, I guess so, Fuck, Lime said again, as she dragged the two men into the living room, pulled the cushions off the couch. Staring up at them from inside the couch was a safe. Lime put her ear to it and started turning the large tumbler dial in the middle. How long ago did you last see her? Lime said, as she continued to open the safe. I don't know, it felt like a few seconds ago. She was killing me repeatedly to get me to remember something. Then I woke up here, and... Shit, that could have been hours ago, Baker added. It felt like it just happened. Have you studied conscious transfer and data storage? No, but then leave this to Mommy and Daddy, okay? Mommy and Daddy, Nick repeated. We aren't really your parents, Lime added. Don't go all Skywalker on us. It's just a figure of speech. And what we call each other in bed, Baker laughed. Obviously, Nick said as he tried to play into the joke, but felt awkward about it. But really, that's gross. Keep your parental sex judgment to yourself, Nick. Baker barked as he rushed to the living room window and peered outside, then closed the curtains dramatically. They know we're here. What? How? There's a cat outside. A cat. There are no real cats over here, just clone ones with spy cameras up their butts. What? That can't be right, Nick said as he looked over to Lime for backup. Where else would you put the camera? Lime replied. I mean, their tails are always up and... Baker added. Stop. I don't want to continue this line of talking. Can we move on? Abso-fucking-lutely, Lime said as she jumped to her feet and pulled the safe inside the couch open. Nick peered inside, expecting to see his long-lost TV remote and maybe the keys to his car. Instead, he saw what could only be described as a Ghostbuster proton pack made by a sleek phone design company. It had a backpack that looked square with large round corners and sexy lines, and a gun-looking wand contraption that had a large opening with lots of rings around it that looked like they rotated. What the balls is that? Nick said as he leaned down to run his fingers along it. Don't touch it, Baker said as he swatted Nick's hand away. It's a proton pack, obviously. Are we ghosts? Nick said with a hint of excitement in his voice. I was such a fan of Ghostbusters growing up, and it's kind of always been my dream to be a Ghostbuster, but I never thought it would happen because they were in New York, and you know, fictional. But this is just a dream. Lime and Baker broke out laughing, cutting Nick off. We aren't ghosts, dummy, Lime said as she pulled the proton pack looking device from the couch and threw it on her back. This sexy emasculator sucks the souls out of the people, killing them of course, then it holds their souls for release later. Most importantly, it prevents them from respawning. So, souls are real? Nick asked. Again, Lime and Baker burst out laughing. I can't believe you had sex with this guy, Baker howled as he doubled over laughing. I know, right? Lime said, her laughter matching his. Nick stared at the two of them. We've never, boinked? Boinked. Way to make a girl seem special. It's just, we've never, done stuff. I've only met you one other time, and your head exploded. Then mine did too. Not a very boinkable situation. Not then, dummy, Lime said as she tightened the straps on the proton pack looking device on her back. when Lemon and I co-opted, there was a couple times Lime made a thrusting motion, using the proton pack's gun as a penis. Yeah, I don't know what that means. And stop it, Nick said, as he swatted the proton gun penis down. What is co-oping? He really is dumb, Baker said, as he used his finger to raise the proton gun penis back up, then laughed at it again. It's not his fault. Well, not all his fault. So, Lime placed a hand on Nick's shoulder. Co-oping is when two people can exchange bodies without the need of enhancements. One person has to be here, and the other has to be over in your toilet world. Makes sense? She said in her best birds and the bees voice. And you co-opt with Lemon? So sometimes when she was with me, it was you? Nick asked, as he sat down on the safe that used to be his couch. Yeah. And sometimes that was when we made love? Ugh, gross. But yes, it was mildly terrible. How often? I don't know. I don't keep track. Lemon was doing research for her game. She is an amazing woman. I mean, I changed my name to be more like her. I'm not exactly sure why she settled on you. She could have done so much better. I know. I ask myself that every day. It's okay, buddy, Baker added. I took care of her when she was here. Took care of her? Like in what way? Baker smiled at him. Tell me, what way? Baker's smile grew larger. Quit fucking with him, Lime laughed as she slapped Baker on the chest. But it's so easy, honestly. I like him better than his co-op. Wait, Nick muttered. I have a co-op? Yeah, you could be here if you didn't. But you don't look like Lemon. And you're her co-op? I look like myself and... Again, Baker and Lime burst out laughing. No, you don't, big guy. You better go look in the mirror quickly. We don't have time for this garbage. Nick shrugged and made his way to the bathroom. He could hear Lime and Baker laughing as he went. They really were dicks. He paused, his mind running blank, as he stared at himself in the bathroom mirror. The reflection wasn't his. There were muscles, a beard, and tattoos. Fuck, he looked like his character from Elysium, Momoa. What the? Quit touching yourself and get back here. The situation has gone balls up ass, Lime yelled. I don't think that's a saying, Baker added. It should be, Lime said, as she turned the proton pack looking device on, as Nick re-entered the room. I mean, it's got the best stuff, balls and assholes. What's not to love? Don't you agree, Nick? Nick shook his head. Why do I look like my Elysium character? You do? Wow, that's a strange coincidence. You're telling me you still sure we're not in a video game? Yes, Nick, we're definitely not in a video game. Speaking of which, why did you use the machine to get back here? What do you mean? Nick asked, as he watched the machine on Lime's back come to life. The rings on the wand did rotate, as well as lit up. Well, you've been here before. You didn't need the machine, so why? The wall behind Lime that used to be the front of the house vanished in a blue glowing ball of light, cutting Lime off. Balls up ass, Baker muttered. See, it's catching on. And applicable, Lime added. There was a second glowing ball of this time green light, causing both Lime and Baker to vaporize to dust. In fact, they seemed like the only thing that vanished. Their clothes, proton pack, and metal butt plugs were all that was left. Nick jumped for the proton pack just as a third ball of light, blue again, removed the roof of the house. Rubble rained down on him. Nick? A voice called. You okay? It was Gabby. He was sure of it. Gabby, it's just me, Nick yelled. Please don't glowing ball me. Oh, I'll ball you if I want to, another voice said. It was manly, so probably Remy. This is Remy, by the way, and I didn't mean that in the way it sounded. Nick got to his feet and tried to pull the proton pack up. It was so heavy he could barely get it off the ground. Lime was way stronger than she looked. What were all these muscles for if he couldn't even lift? There was a strange pulling sensation. Then the house was gone, and he was in a lab of some kind, and he was sitting in a dentist's chair. Did it work? A man asked. He looked like he'd been crying. Nick stared at him confused. What? Did you make it back? The man replied. This isn't stable, someone else added. It was a woman. We can't maintain this. Simon, something's happening. Nick, is that you? The man, Simon asked. Nick? Again, there was a pulling sensation and Nick was back in his house, or rather what was left of it. Remy and Gabby must have really tore the shit out of it when he was gone. The proton pack thing was on Nick's back and felt really hot. Nick? A voice said from outside the house. Nick staggered towards the front street through the rubble, where he saw a man standing alone. A man he'd never seen in real life, or that he could remember. Faraday? Nick asked. Faraday nodded. Nick, what are you doing here?
257.
Hey. After more drinks with ample sushi on top, Faraday staggered from the bathroom. The woman he'd been talking to was checking her phone. I got the bill, she said as she slid the phone into her purse. My treat. You gave me this story. I still can't believe you knew Lemon. Small world. Yeah, Faraday said as he pulled his coat on and smiled at the woman. Thanks for the meal. Anytime, the woman replied. I miss it, Faraday said under his breath. What was that? Faraday froze as a giant, dark-skinned creature stood behind him and the woman, its massive frame heaving under its breath. The creature looked like it wanted to and could eat Faraday whole, swallowing him down. Its jaw seemed to grow as it stood there. Faraday stared down into the void that was its throat and wondered what poor souls had encountered this monstrosity. Surely no one that was around to talk about it. But like everything, Faraday blinked and the creature was gone. The woman continued on, oblivious to what Faraday had just witnessed. Sorry, what are you saying? She smiled at him and placed a hand on his arm. I hope you get your machine working one day so you can find your friend. Well, I did get the machine working, technically. Oh, she said, surprised. I thought, sorry, but you haven't found him? No, not yet. The machine seems to be calibrated wrong. The connection was off and, well, I haven't found him yet. I had help at the end to get it to work, and I think they led me astray. They wanted me to do something, and I fear it wasn't in my best interest. But I did it anyways, because the outcome may be in the best interest of, well, everyone. That sounds ominous. Who's they in the whole thing? I'm not sure. He said his name was Micah, Faraday said, as he led the woman to the sushi bar exit. Rain pelted the street, and the woman stopped in the doorway. Micah. Was he real, or a drift you saw? I don't know, Faraday replied, honestly confused that he'd never thought about it before. The man, he gave me the connection string information I needed. I was just at a coffee shop and we started talking. My friend, Gabby, was the first across. It lasted only a few seconds, but I called Lemon anyways, only she died before I could tell her. So Nick never came back. There was no one to remind him about it. About me. I'm sorry. No, I'm not telling you because I want sympathy. But Maggie, we knew each other before tonight. Okay, I think I would remember that. No, you wouldn't. The machine and the filter prevented that. The machine. Did I tell you my name? I don't normally do that. Safety and all. Did you snoop in my purse? Is that how you trick women to come home with you? Maggie said, as she stormed out into the rain. The drops hammered both of them as Faraday followed her. You were the third test subject, Maggie, Faraday said as he grabbed her arm and stopped her. It was Gabby, Nick, and you. No, Maggie said, her tears lost in the rain. You can't mess with people like this. I'm sorry, Maggie. It's coincidence that we met tonight. I didn't plan this, and I'm sorry. Don't, Maggie said as she pulled her arm free. Faraday watched as she walked away from him and down the street through the rain. He sighed and turned back to the sushi bar, only to be startled by someone standing there, someone he hadn't seen in so long. Nick? Faraday? Nick asked as the rain bounced off of him as he stood there in the street, staring at him. Faraday nodded. Nick, what are you doing here?
257. 257.
Hey, my name is VaughnAshby. I wrote this. If you liked what you heard, head on over to VaughnAshby.com/free and pick up a free novel or a bunch of other free stuff. Go explore the Aurora Wasteland yourself at AuroraWasteland.com. Don't forget to check out the Stories from the Wasteland podcast and search for VaughnAshby on YouTube for video versions and other exciting videos. Thanks for listening.